At MIT, when I was studying for my MBA, we followed the case method. Basically, we learned through reading examples of real business cases and then discussing why the companies made certain decisions and how they could have done better. Well, we've recently witnessed two pretty bad product launches, in the tech space that is. Qualcomm's launch of their Snapdragon processors for laptops and Nvidia's RTX 50 series GPUs. Today, I thought it would be fun to take a look at the Qualcomm launch from a business lens and analyse what went wrong and what they could have done better. Then, if you guys like this video, at the end of it, just leave a comment, and if you do, I'll do the same for Nvidia. Alright, Qualcomm. They formally introduced their Snapdragon X processors for laptops at the beginning of 2024. It was during the big CS conference in Las Vegas. But realistically, this was after months of leaks and hype right throughout 2023. I would guess that some of this originated from Qualcomm's own marketing department, but who knows. Anyway, Qualcomm was promising to do for Windows laptops what Apple's M series had done for theirs, deliver exceptionally long battery life even for performance use, and eliminating annoyances like fan noise and your laptop feeling really warm to the touch. I can't emphasize enough how much of an issue these things were for Windows laptops back in 2023. Back then, it was rare to find one that lasted more than 5 hours on battery, at least in real-world use. Plus, they often felt very warm to the touch and had fan noise. Qualcomm was going to deliver a brand new set of processors based on the ARM architecture, just like Apple had, that would eliminate these issues. This is different, by the way, to the traditional x86 architecture that AMD and Intel had been using and still use to this day. In June 2024, the processors were finally launched. To huge fanfare, by the way, and massive crowds. Well, perhaps not massive crowds, but the excitement around the launch was undeniable. Pretty much any video on it just skyrocketed to 100,000 views or more. So on the surface, excuse the silly pun, it seemed like Qualcomm's marketing team had done a phenomenal job. But then the cracks started showing. When real reviewers and buyers got hold of these laptops, it became clear that some applications just didn't work or didn't work well. Compatibility issues were particularly common in specialist applications and games. You know, the kind that video editors or audio engineers use. Some didn't run, some ran poorly, and some ran, but you had to use an older version. Furthermore, battery life in the real world, not video playback tests, was nowhere near what had been promised. It was ahead of Intel and AMD-powered laptops for sure, at the time that is, but it was noticeably behind Apple's M3 laptops, which these were positioned against. But a mere 3 months after Qualcomm's launch, Intel launched their Lunar Lake chips. Laptops powered by these offered similar power efficiency improvements to Qualcomm's chips. They delivered much longer battery life than Intel laptops of old, and these new breed of Intel laptops, they rarely felt hot to the touch and almost never had fan noise. Furthermore, Intel's integrated GPU was better than the one included with Qualcomm's processors, but it gets worse. All applications worked on Intel's hardware, as they were using traditional x86 architecture. The only thing that Qualcomm's chips were left winning at was multi-core performance, but here's the catch. Given the compatibility issues of Qualcomm-powered laptops, they were best suited for people with basic computing needs, like browsing the web or studying a discipline that just didn't need a lot of computing power, med, law, that sort of thing. These type of users, they don't need extreme multi-core performance. The performance of Intel's Lunar Lake, it's plenty for them. Moral of the story, just 3 months after Qualcomm's launch, Intel sucked the air right out of their sales. Anyway, all of this combined culminated in people wondering why they should buy a Qualcomm laptop and a lot of returns. In fact, Amazon ended up placing a frequently returned tag on their flagship Qualcomm laptop, the Microsoft Surface Laptop 7. I have one right here. Anyway, this was clearly something that no one at Qualcomm or Microsoft would have wanted. And even Microsoft themselves, they ended up silently swapping from Qualcomm's processors to Intel's ones in their business range of Surface laptops that were released many months later. I'm pretty sure that they knew that businesses just wouldn't want to deal with application compatibility issues. So now let's get into what Qualcomm did wrong and what I believe they should have done better. The biggest issue was Qualcomm just over-promising and how it just led to disappointment from reviewers and owners. Let me give you the perfect example. In the lead up to the launch, Qualcomm flew anyone who had a camera out to their headquarters in San Diego. We were shown demos of laptops running games and many intensive professional applications. The kind of applications used for video editing, audio engineering, just like I mentioned earlier. But we weren't able to touch the laptops or test them ourselves. It was all done by Qualcomm's employees. Many influencers and press rushed out videos of how impressive these chips were. I was one of them. We were also told at the event that application compatibility would not be an issue. We were assured Microsoft's Prism translation layer was fully up to the task. x86 applications would run as smoothly as they had on Rosetta 2, Apple's translation layer that was used for their move to ARM chips. Well, when real reviewers finally got their hands on the laptops, we quickly found out that these promises were far from the truth. There were many instances of applications not running well, or only running on an older version. This led to reviewers having to significantly dial back what had been promised. Rather than videos focusing on what Qualcomm laptops could do, they were focused on what they couldn't. A cloud of negativity quickly followed the launch. The next big issue was Qualcomm's extensive use of sponsored reviews. Qualcomm paid almost all major tech YouTubers to hype up their processors, pushing their narrative that these chips were revolutionary, doing for Windows laptops what Apple's chips had done for theirs, and of course, downplaying issues like application compatibility. If you watched several of these videos, you could literally hear the same talking points. Corporate marketing departments must absolutely stop sponsoring influencers like this. When we watch a sponsored video of something that presents itself like a review, our immediate reaction is that we're being misled. Often we feel intentionally misled, and no one likes to feel like that. In Qualcomm's case, their mass sponsorship of YouTubers combined with their misleading claims just amplified the public's mistrust of their product. Look, I'm not saying that there isn't a use case for sponsored videos. There absolutely is, and I'll get to some examples of that later. But they should not be presented like they are an impartial review of the product being sponsored. Next is a very big issue. Qualcomm and Microsoft tied the launch of these processors to Microsoft's AI push, branded as Copilot+. Microsoft mistakenly assumed that the demand for AI from large companies would carry over to the consumer. It did not. Most consumers, even today, can't even name a single benefit of running AI on their laptop versus the cloud. Heck, they probably don't even know what the distinction is. Especially when one is named Copilot Plus and the other Copilot. At the time, the reasons we were given for running AI on your laptops, they just didn't add up. Microsoft's recall, for example. Why would we want Microsoft capturing everything we look at on our computer? Some of it's pretty darn private. Another example that I was told at Qualcomm's event was that on-device AI could be used for faster image generation, as I wouldn't have to wait for the cloud to do its work. But when I tried it, it was bad. The dogs' faces that I generated were lopsided and had different eyes. The fact is that the processing power available on your laptop and the amount of data the AI models have to work with is just too small to do anything all that useful. The narrative then shifted to AI on your laptop will help with effects like blurring your background on conference calls, but most consumers had been using that tech for years. Moral of the story, consumers saw no benefit of a laptop with increased AI processing and they weren't prepared to pay for it. In fact, many reacted negatively, believing it was yet again big tech just trying to mislead us to spend money on something we don't need. Look, combining the launch of Qualcomm's new processor, which did offer real value to many buyers, with whatever Microsoft was trying to push, just massively diluted Qualcomm's message. So, what should have Qualcomm done? Well, firstly, they should not have overpromised. When Qualcomm's chips were launched, laptops that had them in them were substantially better than laptops from Intel and AMD for a specific type of user, people with light computing needs, which is a massive user base, by the way. For these buyers, Snapdragon X laptops delivered longer battery life, had significantly less heat and fan noise, and were very competitively priced. Plus, the applications that these people used, they all worked well on them. Microsoft Office, collaboration software, web browsing, and that sort of thing. There was absolutely no need to continuously tell us about the video editing or gaming performance of these chips, tasks that they just did badly at. If Qualcomm played to their strengths, reviewers would have been supporting their claims versus disproving them. Next, Qualcomm should have appropriately used influencers. They could have sponsored content that would have raised awareness of their products without appearing like they were misleading viewers. For example, send a YouTuber all 10 Qualcomm-powered laptops and have them pick their favorite and tell you why. Or go to a classroom and give everyone a free laptop just filming their reaction. Let influencers do what they do well in independently testing and verifying manufacturers' claims. Don't sponsor that part. Next, Qualcomm should not have announced so early. It gave Intel plenty of time to accelerate their launch. Yes, Intel was probably already working on Lunar Lake for years, likely as a response to Apple's M series. But hearing that Qualcomm was coming out with a competitor just made them accelerate as much as they could. I'm sure it did. I mean, imagine if Qualcomm had waited to just a few months before their launch to hype up their processors. Intel may not have launched Lunar Lake so soon and may have been caught a little off guard. This would have given Qualcomm a larger window of time where they had a unique competitive advantage, and they could establish themselves in the market. A larger install base would have meant more software developers would prioritize creating ARM versions of their applications. And finally, people at Qualcomm, Microsoft, and to be honest, every company that produces laptops, they need to realize that very, very, very few people are asking for AI in their laptop. If Qualcomm had separated themselves from this launch, they could have focused their message on where they added real value for consumers and just not fake value. Hey, if you're looking for a laptop for school or basic home or office use, we have a revolutionary one for you that's much better than the Windows ones that came before it. And guess what? It isn't going to cost any more. Bam, we would have had a winner. Look, I'm going to close by saying the following. Qualcomm Snapdragon X processors are not bad products. For the right people, at the right price, they are a solid buy. I hope you've seen me talk about their benefits and who should buy one in today's video. But the choices the company made meant that what should have been an exciting launch just ended up being a bit of an expensive fizzle. Well, what do you think? Let me know with a comment down below. An obvious question. What do you think of this different kind of video from me? Do you want me to do one on Nvidia's 50 series? If you want to hear more from me about business and how to be successful in your career and even personal finance, I do have a business channel, Just Josh Biz. I'm not sure most people know that. Anyway, I'm about to post a video over there on how to invest. I'll leave a link to it down below. Finally, if you're buying a laptop, make sure to check out our website, bestlaptop.deals. We are constantly improving it. Over there, you'll find our favorite laptops for different types of buyers, extensive ways to filter for a laptop, price trackers so you know when it's the best time to buy, and much more. Till next time, go do something awesome with your day, and I will catch you later.